In the long arc of a life lived under bright lights, Al Roker has come to understand that fame is not a single event, but a slow, shaping force, one that quietly redraws the emotional blueprint of personal relationships over time. And for those now in their 60s who have watched careers rise, settle, and transform, this realization feels deeply familiar. Long before the weather maps and warm laughter became household constants, Al was simply a man learning how to show up for work, unaware that the visibility he earned would follow him home, sit at his dinner table, and whisper into the most intimate corners of his life. And standing beside him through this evolution has been Deborah Roberts, his wife, a journalist in her own right, who understands not only the privilege of being seen, but the cost of never fully disappearing. Together, they have lived the truth that fame changes how love must function, because when the world believes it knows you, privacy becomes a fragile, negotiated space rather than a given. And over decades, they have learned to protect that space with intention and grace. For an audience that has spent years balancing public roles, whether in offices, communities, or families, against private selves, their journey reflects the quiet tension between being available to the world and being present for each other. Al's warmth on screen has always suggested ease, but behind that familiarity lies the discipline of emotional management, the ability to absorb public expectation without allowing it to erode personal connection. And Deborah has been central to this balance, reminding him that the person he is away from the cameras matters just as much, if not more, than the one audiences applaud. Fame, they discovered, has a way of flattening complexity, turning people into symbols, and over time, this can strain relationships, as partners are expected to support not just a spouse, but an image, a role that never fully rests. And for Deborah, this meant learning when to step forward and when to quietly anchor their life at home, preserving normalcy amid extraordinary circumstances. As the years passed and life brought inevitable challenges, aging parents, shifting priorities, moments of vulnerability, the emotional blueprint of their marriage evolved, shaped by a shared understanding that endurance is built not through grand gestures, but through daily choices, through listening when exhaustion replaces enthusiasm, and through offering steadiness when public praise feels hollow. For those in their 60s, this evolution mirrors their own experiences, the realization that long-term relationships are less about passion sustained at full volume and more about trust refined through repetition. And Al and Deborah's story speaks to the wisdom that comes with accepting this shift. Fame also brings a subtle imbalance, as one partner's visibility can overshadow the other's achievements, yet Deborah's own distinguished career has allowed their relationship to remain one of mutual respect rather than quiet compromise, reinforcing the idea that healthy partnerships thrive when both voices are valued, even if one is amplified by the spotlight. Over time, they have learned that public admiration can never substitute for private understanding, and that the applause fades far more quickly than the need for companionship, especially as life enters its later chapters. For an audience reflecting on decades of work, love, and sacrifice, there is comfort in seeing a relationship that acknowledges the toll of constant scrutiny without romanticizing it, that admits fame can complicate intimacy without destroying it, and that shows how resilience in love is often a matter of adaptation rather than resistance. Al's journey illustrates that being known by millions does not shield one from loneliness, just as Deborah's presence demonstrates that true partnership involves bearing witness to the parts of life no one else sees, the doubts, the fatigue, the quiet fears about time and legacy. As they have aged together, the emotional blueprint of their relationship has become less about navigating headlines and more about honoring shared history, recognizing that the most meaningful moments are rarely broadcast, existing instead in private laughter, unspoken understanding, and the comfort of routine. For viewers who have reached a stage of life where reflection outweighs ambition, their story offers a gentle affirmation that fame may alter the contours of personal relationships, but it does not determine their depth, and that love, when tended with patience and humility, can remain grounded even as the world looks on. Ultimately, Al and Deborah's journey suggests that the true measure of a life lived in public is not how well one performs for an audience, but how faithfully one shows up for the people who know the difference between the persona and the person. A message that resonates powerfully with those who have learned through years of experience that the richest connections are built not in the spotlight, but in the quiet spaces it cannot reach.